Your big feet.
Nope. Nope. Leave me
Okay,
alone.
my bad. My bad, man.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
so I think the argument I just give towards God is, I think if PSR is true, then all contingent facts need a sufficient explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I think you know what the contingency argument from Leibniz is in reference to PSR.
Yeah, do you want to put it in the chat in case you have do you have like an esoteric version of it, or do you want to just run it?
Do you want me to give the formal argument, like the formalized version?
No. I mean, my response. I mean, I think it's fine. So, when we,
Sure.
I have a question. Are you like a metaphysical realist or nominalist?
What does that mean?
So
Bro.
when we do you take universals to exist or not? Properties, kinds, and
You,
relations.
depends on you how you define them, but generally, yeah, I think properties exist. Give me a
Um.
second. Let me run my argument.
Okay. I'm
PSR is
waiting.
true. Things need an explanation. The
I can't say I'm also interested in the PSR. I'm more so interested in the relation that is to be contingent on.
What do you mean?
I'll
So do
explain it
you
in your
want?
argument in the chat. We're good faith interlocutors.
I mean, I can just not write the argument if that works for you, or
Well, can you write it out? I just want to make sure. Yeah, I'm writing it
PSR.
right.
I'll write it in short form because I'm lazy. PSR equals true
It's okay.
conditionally if um contingent these need explanation, can't explain set of contingencies through contingency, see, henceforth need necessary. It's very lazy written.
Yeah, it's fine. Just another clarifying question: Are you a direct realist or indirect realist? Here's like a different
Loki
view.
don't know what it means.
Your theory of perception. So, do you think we have direct access to the world, or is it like representational?
When you say representational, are you just saying that we have like a view of the world, but it's kind of distorted from what is actually the case?
Yeah, maybe parts of it are mind dependent.
Oh yeah, I think we can uphold that view, but I think our
Okay.
perception is. I guess I think we're justified in believing our perception is truth tracking, though.
Okay, that's fine. So, you do believe then
What
that
do y'all
oh,
What do y'all know about question mark kicks? Ooh, that's ball knowledge.
what? Oh, okay. So in the contingency argument, I know you didn't, it's you kind of wrote it down here a bit weirdly. Um, but you take the relation to be contingent on or to need an explanation to actually exist under your metaphysical worldview.
Do I take the relation? Could you repeat that in short? I
Yeah,
didn't
so
hear all of
basically,
it.
a realist is going to say that universals like properties, kinds, and relations actually exist.
Yeah, I think relations exist.
Okay, can I get the argument for metaphysical realism, please?
Towards why relations exist.
Um, well, it'd have to be the whole thing, unless you can clarify why it's only relations and not like properties or
I
kinds.
mean, the argument I would give would kind of be a long form of all of them, but I can justify all of them.
Yeah, it's fine. Well,
I mean,
yeah.
since we're already on relation, I'll just start with that. I think if a relation is just, I guess, some sort of interaction between two variables. This could be ontological or temporal, and I'm sure there's other sequences of relations, but just to be specific, I think there's interactions between variables. I think we can observe it. Like currently, me speaking to you is an interaction. By my definition, it's a relation. Relationally, I'm debating you. I think that just through empirics, we can observe relations, and also we can especially observe causal relations. So things like uh, if a car hits a tree and the car gets a dent, well, causally the car was dented because it hit a tree. Well, I think that's the best explanation for why, under sort of, I guess, benefit. Uh, what was the word for it? Benefit cost analysis. I think
Yeah. And do you take universals to be spatially temporally located or not spatially temporally located?
Universals, as in properties,
Kinds of
ca-
relations, yeah.
kind. When you say kinds, what do you mean by that? Like
Think of
distinct,
the like
distinct
humankind.
entities?
Think of like humankind, mammalian
Like
kind, the kind of thing
distinct,
is, I guess.
like distinct sets of entities
I want to represent it as a set because the identity
or
conditions of
groups.
sets are the members, right? But a kind, the identity condition is the kind itself. So think of like being of the the whole human species. That's a kind.
I mean, I think it's a set. I think if a kind just refers to what just refers to like a specific thing that makes or whatever, that's irrelevant. But I'll address kinds last since I'm less familiar with it. But what was your question? Do I think universals are um uh
Yeah, you're like a
non
Platonist or
physical?
Aristotelian.
Uh, I'm not sure. I'd say I'm like a semi Platonist on this. I'm not 100% sure if they're um within space and time. I think there can be circumstances where properties are maybe in space and time, but there can also be circumstances where there are properties in reference to an abstract plane. So I'm agnostic on that. I say generally properties are usually temporal, but they can be non-physical too.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I'm sorry for this Q&A, you. I'm just trying to figure out the position because it's very important. Do you take a sparse or abundant view on properties?
A what?
A sparse or abundant view?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So a sparse, it's just gonna deny unrestricted composition. That is, a sparse, you're just gonna say maybe only certain properties exist, maybe fundamental ones. An abundant view is just gonna say for any x, if x is a predicate, then that corresponds a property or universal.
So sparse view is that only essential properties exist.
Oh, we'd have to just figure out what types are primitive. Yes.
And then abundo is just saying that there aren't that there not all properties are essential. I'm assuming.
Well, an abundant view is just going to say that for anything that we can predicate, so for any sort of predicable, there corresponds a universal.
Uh, yeah, I'd say for a predicate to exist, I'd probably go under the bundle theory because I think for any predicate, I mean, relationally, it has to exist in reference towards
Well,
an entity.
I think you made a bit of a category error. Bundle theory refers to the composition of concrete particulars, unless you hold the trope bundle theory, which would posit, which is a form of nominalism. Sorry, it could be both, but uh, do you mean you're like a bundle theorist when it comes to the composition of particulars, or I don't know how that
I mean, I
applies
don't.
to.
I'd probably just say, I mean, I don't know much about bundle theories, but I'd just say, I mean, I think predicates relationally have to, or I think predicates exist in some sort of universal, or exist in reference to a universal form,
Well,
something like
what I'm
that.
trying to
Whatever
figure out
said.
if you take a sparse or abundant view.
I mean, I'd say fundamentally, probably in principle, the a bundle view, but if it's gonna lead to the conclusion somehow that it's a nominalist view, I wouldn't fully accept it. I would just accept that specific part where it
Yeah.
says that predicates exist with some sort of universal tool or an object or entity.
So you do take an abundant view then, is kind of what you're saying for now? I don't know. I didn't decipher
Uh,
what you said there.
if it doesn't lead to contradicting my initial view, which I'm pretty sure you
But
said
that's a
does.
bit of like a ad hoc, right? You're saying if it doesn't lead to this contradiction, then I'm not going to hold to it. But if it doesn't, then I will hold to it, right?
over 100 years ago.
Um,
I don't know.
I want to say at least a contradiction within your argument of itself. Are you familiar with Russell's paradox?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it. I know it refers to set theory.
Yeah. So there's a Russell's paradox type thing we could run on an abundant view on properties. That's why I'm asking if you actually hold to it or not. And I don't want to,
I mean,
you know,
I'll probably just say in like
I could
hindsight, if
run
I'm
it.
being
Do you want me to
truthful.
run it right now, or?
I mean, you can, but before you do, if I'm being completely faithful, I'd just say I'm agnostic to what type of theory I hold to. I'd probably just say if I had to give like a descriptive, I think out of those two, I think predicates do have a universal involved when referring to a specific subject. Um, whether I
Well,
accept
yeah,
in
I have no
theory,
issue with
like,
that. It's just whether or not you're an abundant or a sparse theorist.
what? What did you?
Um, I just need to know if you're a sparse or abundant theorist. Just pick one, please.
I mean, again, I don't really have a specific view on either. I'm not just gonna pick one. I don't think that's a true dichotomy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just try and eliminate one for you then. So this is basically the paradox I put in chat for an abundant view. If we say for any x, there exists a universal, which corresponds to there's for any x, the predicate, there exists a universal. Then the predicate or property of being non-self-exemplifying. This is just a one-to-one, you know,
Guess
correspondence to
I gotta
Russell's
get
paradox.
Chat GPT real quick. My bad. No, I'm joking.
It's
I'm
fine,
joking.
bro. Oh, okay.
I'm joking. The property of being non-self-exemplifying is, does the property apply to itself? Is it kind of like self-instantiating property?
I'm not sure of that first, too, but I can try to explain it to you in set theory terms.
If it does apply to itself, then it doesn't, because it's supposed to be non-self. Yeah, this look like the
This is
problem
Russell's
that some people.
paradox.
It refers to self-instantiating properties. Where if it doesn't apply to itself, then it does. Property of being non. I mean,
So, do you want me to
I
explain?
forgot. No. I understand. I understand.
Okay.
Uh,
So, an abundant view can't be taken then, correct?
does the property of being non-self exemplifying apply to itself? In
Because
what
under an
sense? Maybe.
the property has this property. Under an abundant view, any properties that any predicables, which can be predicated, so being non-self-exemplifying, there is such a universal. That's what an
I mean, I
abundant
might
view
just.
entails.
I'd probably say it's no. I don't think a property is itself its own property. Like, I wouldn't say water has, or being wet has the property of wet. I think that's just the reaction it gives in relation to another thing. But I'll probably say if abundant theory does say that a property does have its own property, then I'd probably reject that. I mean, it just depends on how you use relational properties, because if you're using it in the sense that the property is just the predicate of any variable, uh, I mean, then
Well,
yeah, inherently it would. But
this is yeah. It's are you sparse? You take a sparse view then.
sparse view just states that there's only essential properties,
It just states that there are only a select amount of properties.
a select amount of properties,
Yeah, it
like
can
a
be under any
finite amount of,
conditions. It could be under
like
any
a
conditions.
finite.
Yeah. Sorry, universals, not properties. I messed up. I misspoke there.
There's only a select amount of universals. What does that mean? Like that? There's
Well, it
only
depends
certain.
on the conditions by which you're defining it, right? So maybe it will say, well, the only things that they are fundamental to physics, maybe like the spin or charge of an electron, for instance. Those are properties, and those are the ones that actually exist. While other properties don't exist.
Like, there's a finite amount of universals. In short,
Uh, that's fine. Yeah, I can. That's an acceptable.
like
That's fine.
not everything has a universal. I mean, I can agree to that. I just say that non-existent doesn't have a universal.
Not. I don't know what that means. So you take a sparse view then,
Sure,
and
I'll
what are
take
your
it for now.
conditions for determining if a universal is primitive?
What do you mean primitive? Like non-reducible?
Yeah, you could take it to be like atomic or something. Basically, because a sparse view is just going to say that there are certain building blocks of universals, right?
I mean,
That
I
actually
don't
exists.
know. Is it what? How is it like? How are you using being reducible or atomic? Because is it reducible in a semantic sense? Obviously, is it reducible in like a fundamental sense? Probably. I think.
Well,
Think
it
you can
just
reduce.
depends on what all it means by sparse is that there's only certain universals, right? So all I'm asking, because you could say it's only atomic ones, you could say it's only primitive ones. I may have misspoke there. Sorry if I did. But I'm just asking, what are your conditions for determining if a universal actually exists or not?
If determining if a universal exists or not. I mean,
Yeah.
generally, I might refer to empirics. I mean, for example, under the definition of relations, empirics show that there are temporal relations. Temporal relations are still relations which are universals. So I think
So
that
you
could be
take
a
it to
form of
be that
justification.
a universal exists if it can be empirically observed?
Yeah, can be, but there can also, I'm sure I can give an argument for why it can also be like um rationalized with.
Okay. I mean, I have two possible contentions there. The first one is, do you take universals to be like necessary and eternal?
Do I take universal to be necessary and eternal?
Yeah,
Not always.
not always. Well, I mean, the ones under your sparse view, so like the fundamental ones.
The fundamental ones.
We take a
Let me
sparse view,
think of.
right? No, no problem.
I don't think. Is there any fundamental relational properties? See, I think so the universals are properties, relations, kinds.
Yes.
Yeah, I think kinds, to my knowledge, would have to be eternal, like in some form. Like, let's say, for example, let's assume God doesn't exist. Just clarify it. This works with assuming God does exist, but just to go under both views, I'll start with an atheist view. Let's say God doesn't exist. Well, we can agree that the universe exists. Well, if the universe exists, there's a kind of numerical relation to the world. Well, if the universe doesn't exist and nothing exists, well, there's a kind of numerical relation to the world that is
Mm-hmm.
zero. So I guess, yeah, I think relations, properties, and kinds are eternal, but it just depends on relating to what, like what type, or in reference to
Yeah.
what. So I think like
Um,
mathematical universals are.
so if I observe someone being silly, they have the property of being silly, um, then silliness is a universal, which is necessary and eternal.
No,
I'm sorry, what?
I said no. I said that's why I
Oh,
clarified at the end that it depends. It's relating on what we're in reference to. So there can be a
uh,
relational property, or I guess a relational universal, such as like a temporal sequence, that obviously I think analytically isn't necessary or
I'm
eternal.
just
My
a
bad.
bit confused because, as far as I'm concerned, your conditions for if a property, or sorry, if a universal actually exists, is if it can be empirically observed, right? Th-
Yeah.
Then now you're saying something different, right?
No. No.
Or is it still just that? So if I empirically
Uh.
observe someone maybe being silly, do they have the property of being silly? And does that property
Yeah.
exists?
Mm-hmm.
And that property exists necessarily and eternally.
No.
Um, okay, can you explain why, please?
I mean, being silly, I guess, is an. Uh.
Well, it's
I
still a
mean,
property.
guess. Yeah. Okay. To be clear, when I said like properties are eternal, I was only in reference to like. That's why I clarified that it depends on a property towards what. Like I said, mathematical properties are eternal. But in the case of this, I'm assuming it's a temporal person being silly for once, or just started being silly. It would just be the case that it's not eternal, obviously, because it's in a temporal sequence. So there was a beginning and an end. Unless you go under like some sort of B
Whoa, hold
theory,
on.
and you can
That
posit.
would be if the concrete particular exemplifies the property. I'm speaking of the universals themselves right now, not if they are exemplified, because we already established that you are what seems to be a Platonist about universals. So they're non-spatially temporally located.
Uh, yeah, I said I'm a partial Platonist. I don't think that they're all like I don't know the direct term uh for it, but I know there was a term. I might have got it. I might have missed it, but I forgot the term. Whatever. I just basically take the view. That's why I clarified. I take the view that there are abstract properties, but then there's also physical properties. Um, uh, and it isn't just one or the other. Or
So you
there's
hold that
physical
they're
universals.
so how do we just okay? So just to be clear, if something is empirically observed, it is a universal, right? And
It can be.
it can be. And what did you say again? That depends on,
Depends on what do you mean.
as in if it's considered a universal. Or, sorry, if you said something earlier about temporality, right?
Oh, if it's
I didn't quite
eternal.
catch that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah, I said their properties can or universals can be temporal, which means they're not eternal, analytically speaking, at least, unless you go under like an infinite
I just feel like
type
your
of
position
theory.
has a lot of like ad hocs into it, right? Because when we first established that universal, is going to be under your sparse view, might I add, only existent if it can be observed empirically. Now you're saying there's like physical universals and non-physical universals. I'm very confused right now.
I mean, wait, can you repeat the first thing you said?
Yeah. So we originally established that under your sparse view of properties, a property, sorry, under your sparse view of properties, yes, a universal is the actual universal, and maybe not like not the abundant view. Um, if it can be observed, right? That was the conditional. That makes it universal.
I mean, I
And
said it
now we're
can
talking
be.
about it
My
can be
initial
observed.
claim.
Well, I need like the
Yeah,
necessary conditions for a universal existing under a sparse view, right?
the necessary conditions for a universal existing. I mean, you never
Yes.
asked for that before, but just to clarify, I never
Uh,
specifically said. And my initial claim was just saying that they can be physical or non-physical. And then I also said that they can be observed, but they can also be rationalized with. I don't see the ad hoc. But either way, the
I'm just
necessary
saying, yeah.
condition for them existing, I have to think on that. Probably just say the necessary condition for them existing has to be some sort of. I guess I don't want to say entity, or some sort of. I don't want to say. Do I say? I'll probably say some sort of sortal. Uh, no,
Sort
not
of.
a sortal. Not a sort. I guess like a set.
Wait, hold on. So you represent universals by if they can be in a set. So on, a universal is universal if it can be put into a set?
No. I think for a universal, specifically like a kind, property, or relation, there has to be a set in the first place to relate to, or at least
Whoa.
some sort of entity or object. The reason I say set is because I don't want to say object or entity because then one of the points I brought up is that there can be a universal in reference to a quantity of zero things existing, but those aren't objects. Something not existing is not an object or an entity, but still an empty set. Like I would consider it an empty set. Maybe I'm using empty set wrong, but to my knowledge, that's how you use
I
empty
think
set.
you're making a horrible mistake right now for a variety of reasons. You want me to expound upon it?
Okay.
Um, the identity conditions of a set are determined by the members. Identity conditions for universals are different. So I don't know what it means for a universal to exist only if it can be if it has a set to relate to. For what I'm not sure what one has priority then. And if the set has priority, then the identity of the universe, there's no such thing as a universal then. You're like a trope theorist at that point. And the second part is for empty sets, um, I'm sure you know the principle of extensionality in set theory, right?
I'm read on it, but I low key forgot about it.
That's fine. So if sets have the same members, they're treated as the same set. That's why there's only one empty set. So if you say that universals which do not have do not have an exemplified or not are not exemplified like in a concrete particular, they're all put in the empty set. So you're going to collapse all these universals into the empty set. And then I'm confused because how are we going to decipher between what universals are what? Because if you represent an empty set, there should be no differentiation. There should be no way to tell the sense of them. That isn't what they entail, what they mean.
Yeah, we'll conclude right here. I already addressed that 23 times.
You did?
No, I just
Oh.
don't feel like saying I concede, so we can conclude.
Oh, it's fine, bro. GG, really good faith.